Hello and welcome to the GT Cup Championship. Today we're at Brands Hatch in Kent supporting the Super League Formula. It's almost time to kick off round 4 of what's already becoming a very exciting championship battle. But before we go racing, let's go and check out the latest news down in the GT Cup paddock. So Tom, how's the season going for you? You're currently leading Group 3 in the championship battle.
Yeah, it's going really well, thanks. The car's very reliable. Just coming to the circuit, doing as well as we can in qualifying and cracking on with the races.
The car's very strong here. Circuit suits the car very well because of the sort of lack of really long straights. And yeah, it's been handling brilliantly all weekend.
New car for you, Porsche time.
Yeah, new car, new challenge. Well, it's a whole new ball game now from moving up from the Aston. I mean, that was a brilliant car to drive, but it's time to move on to bigger and better things, and that's what the Porsche is brought to the table.
You've changed sides out of the Porsche into the Ferrari. How is it?
It's good. It's better for me. It's the Porsche is a lovely car. It's a different car, a different animal. It really, really makes you work hard, and the Ferrari is much kinder to the body, so you last longer when you're a bit older and not 21 anymore. It's easier.
It's been a difficult year for us so far, and it's about time that we got the right result out of the car. Car's been brilliant. It was great all through the test day. It was good yesterday, and we hooked up a really nice lap, so very happy.
Cars are coming round now, ready for race 1 of the GT Cup Championship from Brands Hatch. I'll hand you straight over to the commentary box for your full race commentary.
Thanks, Charlie. It's Chris Randall who takes pole position here for the first race on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Alex Martin and Danny Winstanley, arch rivals, in 4th and 5th on the grid. Also look for Michael Simmons and Marco Pullen. They usually go well. Will Goff, debuting in the Porsche this weekend, lines up in 19th. A bit lower down the order, well up in Group 3 is Tom Andrew with Dan Norris-Jones alongside him on the grid, 23rd and 24th respectively. A huge 35 car field with the effervescent David Bottrell there in 34th and David Back rounding out the field. Rolling start as ever in the GT Cup Championship, and it's Chris Randall in the silver Lotus Europa. On pole position alongside him is Mark Sumter in the Invitation Group white Porsche as away they go, and it's Randall in the little Lotus who streaks into the lead. So Chris Randall takes the advantage. Danny Winstanley in the green Mini, the TVR, looks to the inside of the yellow Porsche of Alex Martin, and he makes contact with Martin, and the pair of them skitter off into the gravel trap. Disaster for two of the foremost runners in the Group 1 Championship, as they will rejoin, but at the very, very rear of the field, just coming up onto the circuit behind David Bottrell, in car with Danny Winstanley, as Alex Martin rejoins ahead of him. I guess that's some sort of justice, as Winstanley did go for a move that probably wasn't really on. Very congested in the midfield as ever in the GT Cup. Great racing, really, wherever you turn, particularly around this Brands Hatch Grand Prix loop. But it's Chris Randall who's opened up an early advantage already. The field a little bit split. Then the upper echelons of the top 10 as we got a spin from Colin Mole. Colin Mole spins round. He takes Leon Price with him. As further back, the rest of the field are coming to an almost blocked circuit. Cars heading off into the gravel trap, really in every which way. Doug Setters in the Lotus as well, parking himself in the gravel. Chris Randall continues oblivious to this with Mark Sumter and Mike Donovan on his tail. Andy Purdy as well, another newcomer to the GT Cup Championship, in 4th place. They make their way through Styling's Marco Pullen already on the tail of Keith Webster. They are fighting for Group 2 honours as the safety car Borg goes out, as Doug Setters forlornly there at Surtees, Colin Mole, and also Paul Winter, Winston Graham as well, out in the Marcos, as Chris Randall paces them through to the restart, and away he goes. Beautifully dodged restart there from Chris Randall as he streaks into the lead of the race, also leading Group 1 in car with Colin Broster, as Andy Ruin squeezes through. Not that Colin's really too concerned. He is at the head of Group 2, although Marco Pullen in the orange Ferrari close on him. Pullen looking for the outside of Gary Eastwood, in car with Colin Broster. Hello once more to Andy Ruin. Two Porsches pretty much swapping paint there, as now Broster has got Pullen right on his tail. They are fighting for Group honours, and Pullen, an assertive young driver. Colin Broster, vastly experienced GT racer. This could be a really good battle, particularly as Keith Webster is there, making it 3 cars in a row for Group 2 already on the restart. Gary Eastwood doing what he can to pick his way up through the order. Eastwood, who has switched the Ferrari for this season. He says the car is easier to drive than his Porsche, although the results thus far just aren't quite going his way, as Mark Sumpter is busy putting Chris Randall under pressure. Randall, however, almost as experienced as Mark. The pair of them have been racing in a multitude of machinery for quite some time as they make their way into Stirling's. A brilliant race this, as ever, from the GT Cup Championship. Battles throughout the field as this Group 2 fight exits Stirling's as they accelerate on towards Clearways to complete the lap, and it's still Colin Broster with Marco Pullen right on his tail. It's still at the head of the field. Chris Randall leading Group 1, leading the race, and he has got Mark Sumpter closing on him, although Sumpter at the moment not really quite close enough to challenge Chris Randall for that position. Instead, he's just sitting there on his tail, waiting to see if he can force Randall into an error. Then it's Mike Donovan in third place. Andy Purdy going very well in fourth position, staying right with the leaders, as Sumpter, who is more accustomed to long distance races, there in second position. We've got contact and Broster spins round. Keith Webster there in the mix as well, and well, two of the Group 2 runners coming together, and it's Broster and Webster who've lost out, and Colin Broster in particular stranded forlornly in the middle of the road. Keith Webster continues in the BMW. It looks as if Colin Broster had a helping hand from somewhere. We'll find out whom after the race. This is a good battle going on between the Porsches once more, as we've got Phil Driver and Toby Tarrant-Willis, and they are busy chasing down Nick Foster in his BMW. Oh no, well, Colin Broster retiring from the race. Hopefully damage won't preclude him from taking part in the second race a little bit later on, as Chris Randall has now built a very healthy lead in the Lotus Europa, and he's worked very hard over the winter and during the early part of 2010 to get that car fully on song, and now it is, and it's really working in his favour, as we've got Driver to the inside, Toby Tarrant-Willis in the turquoise and sky blue car to the outside, and the recovering Alex Martin as well in the yellow 87 car, coming up through the order as best he can. They're all chasing down Marco Pullen, who's now in the lead of Group 2. Around the outside goes Tarrant-Willis. Great move there on Phil Driver. So Toby Tarrant-Willis gaining the position. That puts him up into 7th place, as Alex Martin looks inside of Phil Driver, who closes the door very late. Martin has no option but to bump across the curbs. Doesn't really cost him anything. This is the Group 3 battle. Dan Norris-Jones just holding off Tom Andrew. Great tussle between the Lotus and the KTM Crossbow. As at the head of the field, it's another Lotus. Chris Randall with Lotus yet to claim an outright race victory in the GT Cup Championship. Will we see that at Brands Hatch today? Well, at the moment it's looking very good for Chris Randall as he climbs up towards Sheen Curve. Flames spitting from the rear of the machine. Marco Pullen keeping Toby Tarrant-Willis at bay. Now Marco Pullen's a Group 2 runner. Toby Tarrant-Willis is a Group 1 runner, so effectively Pullen can let Tarrant-Willis through without really conceding too much in terms of group points. However, Marco is a very fierce competitor, and the last thing he wants to do is relinquish positions as they do what they can to close in on Gary Eastwood in 6th position. As now it's Mike Donovan who has taken the charge to Chris Randall. We're moving towards the closing stage of this race, and what can Randall do? Will he be able to hold on as Marco Pullen leads Phil Driver, Alex Martin and Will Goff. Will Goff going well in his outing in the Porsche, doing what he can to close on Alex Martin, although Martin not more experienced with the Porsche and therefore really able to make it work fully. Martin has really come on strong during 2010. Goes to the outside of Phil Driver as they go through Druids. Driver having none of that. So Alex Martin looks for a switchback as they go down towards Graham Hill Bend. He looks to the inside, but last time round, Driver shut the door very firmly. This time he tries to do it again, but he runs wide. Surely Alex Martin's going to be able to pounce as he's got the inside runs. They go into Surtees, and yes, patience pays off for Alex Martin. He gains the position, and that was very nicely judged. He just forced Phil Driver into the area. It's the final lap of the race, and it's Mike Donovan in the lead. So Donovan has found his way past Chris Randall somewhere out of our sight. So it's Mike Donovan who's in the invitation group who's going to come through and take the victory. Chris Randall, however, will take the Group 1 win and therefore those very valuable championship points as Donovan makes his way through Clark Curve for the final time. He accelerates along Bramham Straight. The checker flag is ready and waiting, and Mike Donovan takes the win in race 1 from Chris Randall, and then Mark Sumpter in 3rd place. Marco Pullen is going to hold on and take the Group 2 honours. He's also going to finish in 9th place overall, so Marco Pullen crossed the line. Well, The overall classification sees the win going the way of Mike Donovan from Chris Randall, losing out at the very end of the race. Mark Sompter and then Andy Purdy, very strong 4th position from him. In terms of the groups, well, it's Chris Randall who took Group 1 honours from Andy Purdy and Andy Ruin. Into Group 2, Marco Pullen taking the win from Michael Simmons and Paul Cope. And then Group 3, Dan Norris-Jones just holding off Tom Andrew and David Bottrell.
Well, Chris, you said today was going to be the day where it all come together, and you were right.
Well, it's come together. I made a mistake towards the end, so I didn't get the outright win, which was my own fault, and I'm kicking myself. But you know, the car was terrific. Team have done a great job. It's been a great weekend so far. So hopefully in the next race I won't mess it up.
We went into Druids. I just got on the power, and he just fell back towards me. A little tap. I thought it would have been all right, but I think he just must have startled him, and he made a bit of a mess of it.
So I had a good start. I think Tom Andrew, who was ahead of me on the grid, got held up, and then I got in front of a few cars and I thought I had a bit of a gap. And then I came around 30s and there were cars everywhere. So I dived into the gravel to avoid them, just got out, nearly got beached. And by that point Tom was right behind me, and then we had a good race all the way to the flag from there.
Well, that was an eventful race one for the GT Cup. The cars are all back down in the pits now. The ones that were damaged are being fixed and the ones that aren't are being polished. Join us after the break to find out what happens in race 2.